Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us at Google Next. I'm Louise Baldwin, Solutions Director at Tamr, and I'm very excited to be joined by Edgar Garcia, Vice President of Digital Transformation at Southwire. Southwire is a major manufacturer of building wire and utility cable. Edgar is going to talk about Southwire's efforts to create a complete customer record view, and through partnering with Tamr and Google Cloud, the role that modern technologies like machine learning and the cloud play in that initiative. So Edgar, like many companies, Southwire has grown by acquisition and faced that task of incorporating those newly acquired customers and their data into the business. Could you talk about some of the challenges around unifying all of your customer data?
Sure. So thanks for having me. Just a little background on Southwire. It's about a $6 billion manufacturing company on wire and cable. And over the last few years, we've grown a lot through acquisitions. And the challenge that many companies are going through acquisitions is you're on different ERP systems. So we run SAP, that is our current ERP system that we have, but obviously, a lot of our acquisitions, they tend to be smaller. They tend to be on different systems, whether it's even QuickBooks or Oracle or JD Edwards. So keeping our master data in sync can be a little bit of a challenge with the acquisitions. And as we are trying to get these companies onto SAP, there's a little bit of a lag, and data inconsistency it's really tough, and it's tough to manage the business from that perspective when you're on multiple ERPs. So that's the biggest challenge that we face today with many of our acquisitions.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a common problem, right? The major systems like SAP so messy when you think about integrating new ones into the business. And there must be lots of ripple effects. I think often with customer data, we see that the implications to the business are large. What was the situation like at Southwire? What was the business case for addressing the customer data challenges?
Well, the business case were a couple of things. So internally, it's a lot of work to try to maintain the data and keep it in sync. So it's a manual process. We have a lot of analysts that their day job today is extracting data from different legacy systems, trying to manually keep it in sync, whether it's through Excel or other types of tools. And it's just a burdensome process. But aside from that, not having consistent sales reporting, just the customer service aspect of managing our day-to-day and keeping our customer information in sync, that's probably the bigger factor, just trying to manage our business from a day-to-day perspective. So definitely a challenge, especially when you're trying to look like one company and you're really several different companies. Just keeping all that data in sync from a customer service perspective is very challenging for us.
Can imagine. Often the ripple effects across teams from that day-to-day aspect of maintaining the data can be so large.
Exactly.
Have you tried other approaches in the past? Was this truly your first rodeo in terms of trying to integrate customer data and create that holistic picture, or had you tried other approaches?
Not really. The acquisition front is relatively new for us. We've been on SAP since 2012, and it's been recently since we started making a lot of acquisitions. So I would say over the last 2 to 3 years, it's been a little bit more of a challenge. So initially it was somewhat manageable, but as we grow and acquire more companies, it's becoming a lot more challenging and not manageable. So we realized we need to do something. Managing all of this data in Excel, it's not going to cut it for us. And if we want to scale and grow at the rate that we're currently growing, we needed a different approach.
Very good. And when it came time to, I guess, abandon the Excel approach and you were thinking about potential tools, what were you looking for? Were elements like AI important in the selection of a provider?
Definitely. So, even within Excel, you try to build some type of logic, whether it's through VLOOKUPs or things like that. So we wanted a tool to remove all of that, where it did have some type of machine learning, AI functionality, to try to remove a lot of the redundant managing of our data. So it's a challenge doing it manually, and with so many solutions out there in terms of AI and how it can drive more efficiencies, that's where we wanted to look to see if we can find a solution that can help us with that.
Makes sense. And of course, another interesting part of your deployment is the fact that you're using Google Cloud. Why use
Exactly.
Google Cloud? Yeah, how did you think about the Google Cloud selection?
A couple of factors. One is the maintenance aspect of it. So the old traditional way of managing servers on premise can get very costly, very burdensome. It's a high risk to the company, especially in this whole cyber world that we live in with a lot of cybersecurity threats. So being in the cloud allowed us to mitigate a lot of those risks, but also it allows us to scale a lot quicker too, because if we want to grow the company and grow our data sets, it's a lot easier to do it through the cloud with our partners at Google than the old traditional way of just managing servers on premise. So the cost and just the scalability of being on a cloud, those were the major factors.
Yeah, the scalability aspect is so often huge. I think particularly as you mentioned, kind of the acquisition pipeline, potentially picking up in the future as well, of making sure that you have that kind of repeatable infrastructure around sort of your mastering efforts within it too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think, yeah. And within customer data, there are so many ripple effects for the business. What are some of the business outcomes that Southwire is looking for as a result of having that clean, accurate, mastered customer view?
Well, there's a couple of things. So, obviously we want to make sure we have clean data for better reporting, sales reporting, better customer service, being able to have better offerings for our customers and just manage our businesses in a better fashion with synchronized data. But I think the unforeseen outcomes too, which actually works in our benefit, is that as these companies get ready to ramp up on SAP, a lot of this data will already have been cleansed. So it gives us a little bit of a head start with our SAP implementations. So these companies that we are looking at to bring on to Tamr, by the time that they're ready to go on SAP, whether it's 6 months or a year from now, a big portion of the master data cleanup work will already have been done. So that's a huge one for us.
I'd love to know more about how you think about your customers. Who are Southwire's customers and how do you think about them? Is it on a regional level or on a corporate level?
Sure. So, I guess our customers, it's a wide variety of customers that we deal with today, from retail to utility companies, from small distributors to large distributors, and even small mom and pop shops that currently use our solutions today, from wire and cable to tools and components from a wire perspective. And we have major retailers like Home Depot, Lowe's that currently use our solutions and we work with every day, and utility companies. So we power most of the infrastructure in the United States, as being the largest wire and cable manufacturer in the US.
That must make it complex from a business perspective, what you described. You're working with the mom and pop shops, but also the major distributors at the same time.
Oh, definitely. So it's definitely challenging. Different channels that we have to work with. Our business models are completely different depending on a channel, and it's something that we struggle with every day from a systems perspective, especially with our acquisitions and trying to keep all these customers in sync. And as we grow, as we try to scale, managing our different channels, managing our different customers, especially when you're in disparate systems, can be quite challenging. So it's something that we try to improve on every day from a process perspective.
Very good. And Edgar, I know you're leading digital transformation for Southwire. Who else in the business was excited about the initiative of customer mastering and getting that clean customer view?
Well, the people that probably were the most excited were our sales executive and sales teams, because they're the ones that struggle today from a sales reporting perspective to manage their day-to-day business. So it's a big challenge. We try to manage our sales through sales reporting, very manual processes where we have a lot of analysts that try to consolidate data. So our I would say our internal sales teams are really going to love the outcome of what we're doing with Tamr.
All right. Well, Edgar, it's been great speaking. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us at Google Next.
Great. Thank you. Anytime. Appreciate it.